So this week, we just continue on doing what we were doing last week, which is adding those files to a directory that your web server can see, and your web server will then serve those up. So everything that you did with IIS, you're going to do the exact same thing with Apache. So Apache is named Apache because over time it had gotten a lot of patches. They knew this was coming, so they named it Apache server because they kept patching it. So yeah, a little tidbit.
Apache server.
Yep,
That's nice.
yep. They just kept patching it. So anyway, there was a big revolution. I forget what it was. Like as far as versioning goes, a while back. So a lot of distributions will call it Apache 2, but distributions that are a little more, I guess, enterprise focused will end up calling it HTTPD. So the HTTP daemon, essentially. There's another web server out there that has gained a lot of popularity over time, and that is called Nginx. So that is Nginx, like that in the chat. So as far as right now, Nginx seems to be taking control of the market overall because it is a little more versatile than Apache. You can do some really cool things like reverse proxies, so that you can avoid having to use VPNs and other things. The configuration is a little more complex, but the idea is that access is way easier from using a reverse proxy or something like that. So anyway, Apache can't do that, but Apache is still a really good web service, and that's how we're going to be using it. So that's why we're doing this. And Apache has been around for a really, really long time. So if you are dealing with older admins or something like that, then they're probably more familiar with Apache than they are with Nginx, which means that companies that you walk into that are running web servers on Linux may very well be using Apache rather than Nginx. So if your company's forward thinking, if they're in the cloud, if they're doing this and that, all the new buzzwordy stuff, they might very well be using Nginx. But anyway, long story short, Apache is what we're going to be doing. So anyway, you're going to be doing all this over SSH, the way that you should be doing it. So from Linux Mint, open up a terminal and SSH into your Ubuntu 18 VM. So long story short on that one, you should be running your Ubuntu VM while you're doing this, and then using your username at hostname. So SSH Leo at ubuserve or whatever the name of your server is and your username is the way you should be connecting to it. Install Apache 2 this way, since it's Ubuntu. That'll be the command that you use. In the or the GUI, doesn't matter. Go to var www.html. Go to that directory there. You're going to find an index.html page in there already. If you, in Linux Mint, go to the hostname or the IP address of your server in Firefox, then you'll obviously see what that test page looks like. But what I want you to do is either change the name of the original index.html or overwrite it or delete it. I'm a stickler for never deleting anything, so don't. I typically do not delete it. I'll just rename it or something like that. So indexbackup.html or something like that. That way, one of the things you can do on your webpage is like link to that page in case you wanted to see what that looked like before you made changes to it. But long story short, I don't know how many times I'm going to say that today for some reason. You're just going to copy all the files that you created before. So your index.html page, your CSS page, and just those two files, and your images or anything else that you've added to your page. Add all of that stuff to the var www.html directory, and you should be good. Refresh the page in Firefox, and Apache will handle it, essentially. But there is something that you need to do just to be sure that everything is going to work for you. So the etc Apache 2 mods enabled dir.conf file. So if you remember in the previous lab, you had to change the order. Well, you may not have had to change it, but you had to look at the order of index.html, index.php, index. This and that and everything. You had to put index.html up top. This is the file in Linux that you do that with. So in dir.conf, make sure in the list that you see going from left to right that index.html is the first on the list, and then all the other stuff is listed after that. The idea is that you want it seeing your index.html first and then displaying that as opposed to one of the other files. The real reason that you're doing that is so that Apache doesn't have to look down a list. It's like, nope, not that one, nope, not that one, nope, not that one. Oh, there's index.html, cool, we'll do that. It doesn't save you a whole lot of time, but it's a couple of milliseconds that that you can be faster if you just make these simple changes. So anyway, so in that file, make sure index.html is first. Take a screenshot of that file, make sure index.html is first, obviously. And in min, go to your hostname. So open up Firefox, go to whatever your Ubuntu hostname is, and then take a screenshot. You should be seeing your web page with your styles and your buttons and your images. If you don't, go back, fix it. Make sure it's actually working. Now, once you do, once it is working, just take a screenshot. Take a screenshot. And that'll do it. That's all you got to do. There's really not a whole lot to this lab. All right. One of the things that you're going to run into is the question of, well, how do I get it over to that server? Ooh. So one of the things that you're going to want to do, and it doesn't really matter how you do it. You can do it over the GUI, but you'll need to, if you're going to do it GUI-wise, you're going to have to put it, drag and drop it in Linux Mint into your home folder on Ubuntu. Then, in an Ubuntu terminal, copy it to the var.www.html directory. You don't have permission to that directory. Apache owns that directory, or root owns that directory, not you. As, you know, like if I were to log into the Ubuntu server as Leo, it wouldn't be me that owned it. So I wouldn't have permission to copy it over. So obviously make sure you use sudo to do that copy command. And this will explain if you try to, you know, in the GUI, just go to var.www.html and you try to drag and drop it, and it's like, you don't have permission. That's why. You are acting as you, and that directory is not owned by you, so you don't have permission to it. And if you want to do that over the command line, you can do that with the sftp command. So this is one that we looked at in the Linux class, I believe. I know we're looking at it now. I'm pretty sure we looked at it before. But, let me see. Actually, I don't, yeah. Well, the way that you're going to need to remember it, let me see. I don't know if we actually did that in classes prior, so I'm going to give you an idea how it works. So, hey, it actually exists on Mac. How cool. So, SFTP, from where to where. That's the way that you're going to want to think about this when you're putting this command together. So, from where to where. So SFTP stands for Secure File Transfer Protocol. You want to do from where. So if I go to if I download my files and I put them in on my desktop or something like that, what I want to do is either get into my desktop or give it the whole file path. I think it's users Leo and then desktop, right? And then it's going to be, I don't know, I guess like index.html or something like that. Or you can copy over the whole zip directory that you submitted to me. So website.zip, whatever that is. And then you want to answer the question to where. So that's going to be Leo at ubu serve colon home Leo and then whatever. I guess I could just put it there, right? There. So that's how that's going to work. So you're going to want the command itself, SFTP, the file you want to move over, give it the full file path. That way you're not running into weird relative file pathing issues or anything like that. The server that you want it to be on and the user that you're doing it as. So just like you would put it into SSH and then separated by a colon and then where you want it to go. If you don't want the name to change, you can just get rid of that part. You can just go home Leo and it'll dump it right into home Leo as well. So if you're doing it over command line, you can use FTP. If you're doing it over the GUI, then obviously just drag and drop. But using the FTP command, I would challenge you guys to do that. it is a really helpful command. And when you are running into an issue where your machine doesn't have a GUI, or you don't have a GUI way to connect up to your machine, then SFTP is going to really be the only way to get files over. So make sure that you at least attempt to do it this way. I'm not going to grade you on this. You don't actually have to, honor system and all that, but try it out. See if you can make it work. That is a really important concept to understand when you're dealing with Linux servers. So once you get everything done, if you didn't do SFTP in the first place, go back and try it. All right. What's that?
No, I was just listening to you.
Oh, okay, cool. All right.
You don't want us to. I had to go to the bathroom, so I missed half of this.
Yeah.
So did you? So we can't do. You don't want us to share the folder, share the folder through the VM. Try it through ST, whatever.
You can use the GUI if you want to. I'm just really just asking you to make sure that you at least attempt the SFTP command, because you can just drag and drop it through the GUI into your home folder or something like that. That's not a problem, just to get it fixed. But I want y'all to explore the SFTP command just because it's such an important command to understand when you're dealing with Linux servers in general.
Okay.
Yeah. So honor system and all.
Because I had to share my folder through the through Windows to get my HTML over, and because it's on a different IP address instead of the home, so I couldn't connect my laptop over to the VMs.
So here's the thing that you can do. Because pfSense is routing between those two networks, right? If you have your Windows machine and your Linux Mint machine on at the same time, SFTP works to and from Windows. So, yeah. And so one of the things that you probably did not do yet is create a firewall rule that allows communication between Windows and the Linux networks. If you do that, then SFTP will work just fine. However, names will not. So you'll need to use the IP address instead of a host name.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, so I mean, drag and drop is totally fine if you're using Windows file share or whatever. It doesn't really matter to me how you get stuff over. To be honest with you, I was leaving that up to y'all to see what kind of cool ideas y'all come up with on how to move files from here to there. Some people came up with Google Drive, and that's totally fine as well. But it's not as clever.
I just did my HTML coding on my actual laptop. I didn't do it through the VM, so.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, that and exactly right. I think a lot of people did that. But a lot of people decided to just put it on Google Drive and then log into Google Drive on each VM and pull it down. That is totally a solution. It's actually, I mean, I'd say it's not as clever, but it is still pretty clever. But using the internal tools without having to use something external like Google Drive is slightly more clever. So yeah, for sure. However you get it over, it's fine. You're solving a problem, and that's the point.
Right.
I know if you put everything on a thumb drive and you tell the VM to pull from this hard drive, that'd be, to me, that seems like it'd be easier.
Yep. That's absolutely another way to do it. And I mean, you're learning more about how VMs work if you're doing stuff like that, doing pass through. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So yeah, I mean, it's just really interesting to hear how you guys decide to move those files around, because I know I never specified how you would do it until now.
Would be just to throw it in a Dropbox or something and plug in the VM.
Yep, that's how a lot of people did it, and that's fine. Solve that problem. If y'all are thinking about how to solve that problem, then I'm happy. That's really the whole point of this class. So cool, very cool. All right, well that's it for the recording.